Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. This morning I'm looking at a book from the Legal Action Group. It's called Inquests. It's a book we've reviewed before. Now, LAG, the Legal Action Group, is an extremely important organisation for certainly junior members of the bar, and I think for judges as well, because there's an awful lot of information which is of a very practical nature, which is of course the whole purpose behind what LAG are trying to produce. And I have found them, as many of my colleagues have within the profession, of extremely great use, because it makes the law very accessible to us very quickly. Now, the review that we're looking at this morning is this book here. It's a heavy book. It's now in a 3rd edition. That's the front cover, that's the spine, and then you can see the back there. It's a 3rd edition, as I say, Inquests, a Practitioner's Guide. It's been written by a number of people. Leslie Thomas, who is now the Queen's Counsel, and there's been a very nice article about him. There's a photograph of him there in the Times, written by Francis Gibb and Fiona Borden, who actually interviewed Mr. Thomas. You can see him there. I shall put that there. And there are a number of other people involved. Adam Straw, Daniel Machover and Danny Friedman, Queen's Counsel. Let's say the back has got a lot of information on it, which you can probably see there again. The book is actually now nearly 1,000 pages long. One of the nice things about LAG is they always give you a little bit of a shaded area, which means you can find the appendices quite quickly. And there are quite a lot of appendix in this. They're listed there, you can see them. What you've got is the legislation itself, then references, narrative directions, and letters precedent, and various other things which you can see there. There is, of course, at the back, a useful detailed index. Then the bulk of the book itself is heavy. It's got, one of the nice things about it is it's paragraph numbered, which makes it very easy to navigate. There are, of course, cases in the footnotes. You can see one there. And again, one of the things I like about the LAG publications, is at the front of each chapter you've got an introduction, then the basic information, and then details towards the end. And it's laid out in a very nice way, which makes it very easy for us to find stuff. And one of the nice things is, because you get used to the publications, you know what the way they're actually going to produce the information. There's details about the authors at the front, and then you've got a very important foreword by His Honour Judge Peter Thornton, Queen's Counsel, which is there. He's the Chief Coroner. And in fact, the front page, and one of the touching things about this is the dedication is for all bereaved families touched by the inquest process. It's an important area, it's an emotive area, it's one where successive governments have tried to do a number of things. Without making political comments about this, obviously a lot of views are that the system still is not quite where we should be. Because there are, of course, a number of people who feel that they have not been dealt with the way they would like to be dealt with within the system itself. However, let's look at the book and its contents and what it's about. We've written a review. That's my wife Elizabeth and I have produced a written review which is on the web and in the journals. And we've got the following title for it: Promoting the Rights of Bereaved People, the Definitive Guide on Inquests, now in a new edition, and it's the 3rd. And this is what we say. Writing in the foreword to the new 3rd edition of this outstanding and well-established Practitioner's Guide, His Honour Judge Peter Thornton, Queen's Counsel, the Chief Coroner for England and Wales, defines the function and value of coroners, and therefore inquests. Coroners, he says, perform an important service, and he points out, adding that this public service is first and foremost for bereaved families, and secondly for the wider public good. Explaining that the service is now at least 800 years old, he mentions the significant changes that have recently taken place within it, referring to the new statutory regime governing the powers and duties of coroners. And in fact, the new people who've come to write this book have put some new chapters in, which you'll find, which have greatly enhanced the book itself. It's anticipated that one of the positive results that we've got from these changes, including a number of significant procedural alterations, will be to create a more modern and efficient service aimed at lessening distress for families and also allowing coroners to concentrate on more difficult cases. So for practitioners involved in this sensitive area, an understanding of case law and theory is of course very important. But even more important is knowing what to do when faced with the complexities of an inquest. And this is where this book is especially helpful. It's a plain-speaking guide to the practice and procedure of the coroner's court. And particularly noteworthy is that the book is written by a team of authors whose expertise has been honed and tested in the arena of actual experience. Not mere theorists, of course, these gentlemen. Dedicating the book to all bereaved families touched by the inquest process, which I indicated earlier, each of them has worked on high-profile and often controversial cases. Leslie Thomas, who's the first named, for example, and he was named Lawyer of the Year in 2012, and by happy coincidence, when the book was launched, he took silk a few days later. And he's worked, of course, on the Hillborough tragedy, as has Adam Straw, whose experience has also included the cases of Jean-Charles de Menezes and Alexander Litvinenko. Daniel Machover, another of the authors, is a specialist in international human rights law and is currently chair of Inquests, which is the organisation dedicated to upholding the rights of bereaved families within the coronial system. Danny Friedman, Queen's Counsel, whom we also met at the launch, is a specialist in crime, human rights, public law and international humanitarian law. And he writes the human rights chapter, which is actually in Archbold Criminal Pleadings, Evidence and Practice. So he comes to the publication with substantial track record. In researching and compiling and publishing this book, the Legal Action Group perpetuates its noble tradition of producing detailed and thorough guides to the law that are not only of direct practical use for practitioners, but accessible as well to interested and concerned members of the general public. And I think that's one of the important factors about LAG. It's readable information and it's available to the layman and the litigants in person in particular, of which is a very growing and larger number than we've had for many, many years. Let me conclude by saying, indisputably, this is authoritative and up-to-date, and it's a book which is, as I say, accessible and a valuable resource, because it also contains extensive tables of cases, right at the front of it listed, statutes, statutory instruments and international conventions, plus the 4 main appendices at the back that include legislation, precedents and forms. Anyone involved in any or all matters relating to inquests should certainly consider this book indispensable, and the publication date is cited at February 2014. And just to show you the book again, it's very heavy, about 1,000 pages long. It is extremely useful. That's rather a nice point that you can see there. Guidelines on answering certain points that are raised. So it is very much a practitioner's book, and as I've indicated, there are some very useful points right at the back. You've got things like precedents. Again, depending on what you need, this book is actually in one volume exactly what you want. So can I thank the 4 authors and also Legal Action Group in particular for maintaining this very high standard for what we have and what we need as practitioners. Without it, we would have a really difficult time. So thank you all. Bye-bye.